shit. Hey. Come to LA and see culture over the caution. People think that this industry's influences and profits and walk around trying to see a Kardashian's open wallet, but never step in a Van Nuys, Inglewood, or the Compton. Red hats quoting New Jesus but speaking conscious. Scream wokeism, that dog whistle unconscious. I stopped listening to idiots talking when they said listen to real music and then went and threw on some Tom McDonald. Fuck that! No taste, lack of seasoning evident. Locked you up inside of an ice truck with no evidence. I've been talking shit on each politician indefinite. You call yourself American, sucking dick of your president? Pfft. No kings, fuck around, get profiled. Fox speak on Cali so jealously like they know a Lyles. Say it's all right, you never been to my county. The only time we get rowdy is when we spot the imposters. Cost them, come together like Mamdani and Lander. You motherfuckers trying to split us with the shit that you pander. They cuff the senators who just want an answer. They cut the bill, then jump the bill, then up the bill of someone dying of cancer. So pussy when they press, they end up firing anchors. Say they for you, but then end up jerking off every banker. They think the laws are just guidelines you might find, thinking you're high crime till you realize all of your numbers tank first. Be like Dr. Phil, hide behind the truck or dig a fucking hole you can't get out of like you Elon Musk. Bombing out around on shit, is this 2003 enough? I know how this goes cause every strong man who playing out here is weak as fuck. No kings, y'all been talking about a ghetto but pasty as fuck. Messy enough like you Jared Leto or worse. None of you jump in my summer, make them crash out online like Sabrina on the cover. Come on! Too soon? What you gotta say? Fuck ICE! Aw shit. Aw shit, that's right. I got a haircut. That was my birthday present to myself. And a Nintendo Switch 2. I also got a Nintendo Switch 2. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching Freestyle the News. If you like what you heard, please reconnect with the like button you had a previous relationship with over a long period of time where you actually really did love each other, but it really just couldn't work out because he was really just kind of fucking broke. And then you run into Pedro Pascal, who's rich and he's fucking Pedro Pascal, so he sweeps you off of your feet, right? And even though your acting is so fucking wooden, it's somehow engaging because Pedro Pascal and this other like button are holding it together the whole time. And then you go on your birthday to see, I don't know who you are in this scenario, but the Materialist was okay. And then leave a comment on your favorite bar. So yeah, that's the headline. The Materialists, listen to me real quickly. I like Chris Evans, right? I like Pedro Pascal. Captain America, man who protects young children, they're Yoda puppets, right? Great. Awesome, right? Also Madam Web, which, you know, I mean, I guess she ethered Ellen, but like, what? That was coming anyway. I'm not trying to hate on Dakota Johnson, but also this movie was very, like, my girlfriend perfectly described it. She said, if this was a K-drama, it would be gas. Like, as a K-drama, this thing kills. But because of the way it's kind of wrapped up in American culture, and also some parts of American culture, it's very, it kind of guesses a lot on it. It just doesn't connect the same way. I just wasn't super into it. That being said, Celine Song is an incredible director. Her previous film, Past Lives, amazing. You should definitely watch it. But yeah, wasn't feeling this one. And it's not because I don't like sappy melodramas. Hey, I watch Bollywood movies. All right? Look at me. Look at me. It's in my blood. We had a crazy week this week. It was my birthday this week. Like I said, that's why I went to go see that movie. I did get a Nintendo Switch 2. Don't worry, I didn't pay a crazy amount for it, even though it already cost like a crazy amount. So far, it's been a great experience. Do I think Mario Kart World is worth $80? Not particularly, but it's still a great game, just not, you know, bring it down to like 60 and I'll meet you there. But anyway, thank you all for the birthday wishes and thank you all for saying such nice things about what this show has done for you. That means the world to me. It also means the world to me that my head can breathe after the amount of hair I had on it. But if you would like to get me a present, go to TooSoonCrew.com, buy one of these amazing t-shirts and enter in the code FUCKICE for 15% off. And if you use the code FUCKICE, half of those profits are going to go to the National Immigrant Justice Center because ICE is stupid and I don't like it in Boba or in Los Angeles. So yeah, Fuck ICE. Anyway, let's get into this breakdown. Obviously, throughout this week, the top story that has dominated almost every single headline was the Trump administration and ICE's continued raids on Los Angeles neighborhoods, and the massive protest response that has sought to counter them. Although it may be a misnomer to specifically call it the Los Angeles protest, because there were so many neighborhoods in California affected, including ones in Orange County, as well as in San Diego, and eventually the protests spread to other states and cities. Now, obviously, many people have already seen the images of Waymos burning from last week, and if you were to turn on the news, many of you would think that Los Angeles was this giant fucking war zone. But as many have already pointed out during the week, the greater part of Los Angeles is not. Like, most of Los Angeles is not we don't live in fucking Mad Max, okay? Majority of Los Angeles was perfectly fine. The vast majority of protests were peaceful. They were just people chilling out, chanting, talking shit, holding up cool signs. Sometimes like 4 or 5 people on the side of the street with other cars like honking, like, yeah. And while there was some civic disobedience, by the way, that's a key part of protest, that civic disobedience was still peaceful. But the main areas that got the most attention were the ones that had the largest police presence, because that's the craziest fucking image you can put on a television screen or in a headline. And frankly, what pisses me off about this narrative, aside from like the obvious, is that all year round, motherfuckers on Fox News and Newsmax like to run their dumb fucking mouths about how Los Angeles is just a bunch of latte sipping pussies, right? And then when they fucking come down here and shit hits the fan and they fuck around and find out, all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, these savages, this seems rather dangerous. Does it, bitch? Oh, we're all woke fucking pussies until you want to start some shit and then cry all the way fucking home like Cartman after he gets tapped. Look, obviously, like in any protest, there are bad faith actors who will take advantage and do the worst things. But again, even the group the protesters were shitting on the most, which was the Los Angeles Police Department, said that most of the protests were largely peaceful, and any further involvement from the National Guard or the military would be escalatory, would put the troops in harm's way, would put the officers in harm's way, would put the civilians in harm's way, and would create more chaos instead of solve a problem. By the way, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. The other main story we have is Trump sending the National Guard and the fucking Marines down to Los Angeles. And like everyone predicted, this reasonably escalated tension substantially. Yet I do have to give credit where credit is due. Word got around about what the fuck was going on and how the optics of the situation were being manipulated, and massive kudos to the multiple people organizing. There was an extensive push to make sure that most of these protests were not co-opted or that they didn't escalate to violence. That doesn't mean all of them were perfect. That doesn't mean that officers didn't step over the line multiple times in multiple situations, which you can find on camera. But the vast majority of these protests turned out okay and peaceful and sent a message, one that has resonated resoundingly throughout the country. And even still, many conservative news outlets started to treat Los Angeles like we're going through the LA riots, which, by the way, if you think this was the LA riots, you would not fucking last in the LA riots. While Trump and other officials, as well as pundits, tried to pressure as many levers against California to make it look like it was out of control, the chief person standing in the way of all of those narratives was Gavin Newsom. And I've said multiple times before on this show, Gavin Newsom is a psycho, but he's our psycho, you know? He has shitty policies for the homeless. He both sides and hedges his bets multiple times when he doesn't need to, but he also swings like a motherfucker when you need him. He is the Vegeta you want without rose-tinted glasses, because Vegeta without rose-tinted glasses kind of fucking sucks. But when Cell is coming through, you need someone to help Gohan. 4 of you got that reference, and I'm proud of you. Newsom positioned himself against Trump and leveraged every optics-based option to portray what was happening in Los Angeles and California as unbelievably unreasonable. He ended up broadcasting a massive speech which had some really outstanding viewership. And to his credit, after filing lawsuits and doing everything else he could, a judge eventually ruled that the Trump administration had to hand over control of the National Guard back to Newsom. Now, shortly after, an appeals court reversed that, and it's still being played out. But it is easy to see how that speech really ratcheted up public opinion, because right afterwards, many more people with public platforms started speaking out, including many independents. And I will say, because I don't want to leave anybody out, a lot of TikTokers who pressured people with public platforms to speak on this did have an effect. It should also be said that it didn't help that the Trump administration thought this was the perfect time to let their masks slip as they cuffed California Senator Alex Padilla when he was trying to ask Kristi Noem a question. And look, just for the record, let's be cynical and treat both of the people in this story working through a publicity stunt, right? Even if Noem thought Padilla was trying to be disruptive and impede the law and start some shit for political optics, Kristi, is this baby's first political moment in a world with fucking cameras? Because this is the dumbest fucking move for you to do, right, in this situation, and double down, and a complete miscalculation with how it's gonna read to the broader public. And to be honest, maybe it is, because that is Trump's chief miscalculation throughout this whole fucking thing. Trump still believed throughout this whole issue that he was in some sort of honeymoon period, at least with immigration. But after a shocking -16 net approval rating from Quinnipiac, one of the best pollsters in the country, it is very clear how much of an opposition he was building for himself. And all of this culminated in the protest on Saturday, No King's Day, where legitimately millions of people across the United States, right, took to the streets in organized protests against Donald Trump and ICE. And the images of gargantuan, massive, populist crowds of protesters, many who don't usually protest all the time, coupled against the lackluster response to Trump's fuckshit military parade, spoke volumes. And there are so many more angles of the story I don't even have time to cover, like the multiple military members who off the record expressed frustration and worry about their presence there. If you're curious, I typed up a source's response to many of these things in one of my channel posts. You can go check that out. But as of yesterday morning, Trump asked for ICE to halt their raids on farms and small businesses and some random extra arrests, usually citizens, to intimidate other people who are immigrants who are around, which is already fucked up as is. In the latest sign that he has speed-run people's disdain for him back to the forefront. And two things. Number one, if you ever had any doubt that there is a substantial momentum against the worst parts of this administration, time to let that doubt go. I have said time and time again, it is going to take time for opposition to build, and here is that moment. There is no part of what Trump was doing in Los Angeles that wasn't scary, and I am not shielded from it. Okay? 2 LAPD officers parked outside of our building last night, and we were worried about what the fuck was going on. Me and my girlfriend live near a lot of Hispanic and immigrant families, and you would find taco trucks on the side of the road cleared out of people because regardless if they were citizens or not, motherfuckers were pulling them in. But if you ever wanted to know what a fight was like, this is what a fight is like. It's anxious, it's uncertain, and this is the swing back. The reason I caution against fatalistic language and conspiracy theories and we're all cooked, Trump is a dictator, American democracy is dead, and all we have is the Democrats and we should just throw our hands up and fucking play canasta while the Titanic sinks, is because American democracy is not over. Trump wants to be a dictator and is meeting significant pushback and roadblocks on both his fascistic nature and his fucking policy. And if the Democrats will not move fast enough, everybody else will. And then the Democrats will eventually catch up because they're fucking bandwagoners. It's a fucking political party, guys. All right? It's vain. They'll catch up because they fucking have to. And then they'll pander because they want in. Lastly, and I'm going to say this very quickly, all right? The No Kings protest was an enormous success in terms of optics and the way it pressured administrative headlines and narratives. Because of how big it was, it retroactively colors all of the other protests that people tried to spin as dangerous and fucking apocalyptic and all that shit, right? As sincere civil disobedience to many independents, as well as people you would need to flip against Trump. But there are certain people who are fucking yapping online a mess of shit like, oh, this is just This is just live, laugh, love, protest before brunch. All just controlled opposition. All these people are known snitches who are running this protest. That was actually said in a fucking TikTok. These libs. Oh, they're so insufferable. They think they're doing something. Hey, fuck shit. This isn't about liberal versus leftist versus Marxist or whatever the fuck protests, right? It's just about protests. The point of the fucking protest is to make headlines and bring awareness to the size and importance of the cause and disrupt the complicity of the public with people in power to have that cause go through. Having this protest doesn't mean other Marxist or leftist protests won't fucking work in the future. All of them work. In fact, this backs up the previous protests that happened. And I would know that because I understand PR and you're on fucking Twitter. So if you are complaining about what happened yesterday as not being hardcore enough when it hijacked every headline, and not in a liberal versus leftist way, but in a, hey, take care of immigrants and fuck ICE kind of way, if you have a problem with that, you are not a serious fucking activist or organizer. Don't fucking at me. Shut the fuck up. Protest is protest. If you want to be performative about how realer things are, pull up to Chuck Schumer and you two can bitch and complain, right, about doing something together and then fuck each other. Also, FYI, there were plenty of leftists at these protests, as well as Marxists and liberals, because not everything is a fucking snarky Twitter post, right? And most of you also have blue checks, which is its own clownish insanity. Go fuck yourself. But look, even if you didn't like the No Kings protest, and for the record, I'm speaking specifically to performative activists when I go off like that, if you had a sincere problem and you're not just doing it because you want attention, but you really think that it could have gone farther, I get it. Regardless of your feelings, keep the fight up. It's not just one lane that's gonna change this shit, okay? The photos from this week weren't photos of leftists or liberals or fucking Logan Paul or funny signs. They were of a swing back. That has to do with purpose, not polarization. Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, let's move on to Israel and Iran. Earlier this week, Israel launched several large-scale attacks at multiple military installations, private residences, and nuclear facilities in Iran. This has come after months of saber rattling from Israel towards Iran. Now, let's be clear, that's not saying Iran is the good guy at all. These countries have always had tensions, and this was the largest scale attack endured since the Iran-Iraq war in the 1980s. Now, over the preceding months, there had been a lot of commotion about the Iran nuclear deal, as well as Iran's capability of a nuclear weapon. A day before the strikes happened, the IAEA found Iran non-compliant with their nuclear obligations for the first time in 20 years, which was followed almost immediately by Iran announcing a new nuclear enrichment facility where they were installing advanced centrifuges. So it's little surprise the reason given for the strike was that it was an attempt to cripple Iran's ability to seek a nuclear weapon. But here's the thing, and I'm sure you're going to find this shocking, but while Israel's missiles were supposed to target nuclear infrastructure and those involved with the ballistic missile program, the overwhelming number of casualties were civilians. Again, 78 people killed, 329 people injured, and while many high-profile targets from the Israelis were hit, the collateral damage was front and center. Iran fired back with 150 ballistic missiles and 100 drones, injuring 63 people, killing 1, with international tensions rising to a fever pitch. Now, strikes and retaliatory strikes have continued since then, with airstrikes over Tehran and missile strikes in Tel Aviv, with a large majority of the response being worry and caution from everybody witnessing this. It is important to note, even Trump's base isn't altogether in on this. Many are also wary of Israel's intentions here, like fucking out of nowhere, Tucker Carlson, saying that he was wary of supporting the war-hungry aspirations of the Israeli government. This coming after a new poll within the one I mentioned earlier with Trump's negative net 16 approval and all that, citing support for Israel the lowest in decades, with a steep rise in Palestinian support, signaling that Israel's actions in Gaza have shifted the narrative overall with the public. And listen, we've talked a fair bit about Israel and Netanyahu and all that. Escalatory behavior from them is a norm. But what isn't a norm is how much the public is now actively shifting their perception of Israel's actions. I have said before, this is the parallel to Afghanistan and Iraq in the early aughts, right? This kind of preemptive war on terror-esque bullshit did not end well, right, after 2003, and it won't end well here. Politically, it will eventually become poison, but here's the thing. The people who suffer most in this, again, are still civilians. I don't consider a nuclear Iran a good thing either, and I'm wary of any government who's just like, oh, we're all just being chill with uranium. Why are you? Stop being mad. But the ambitions and the callousness towards human capital exhibited by people like Netanyahu and the officials at the IDF shown that they are positions of power with no moral compass and only hunger for instability. And it is not anti-Semitic to call out Benjamin Netanyahu and his cronies. Jews are consistently harmed by Netanyahu's actions. Ask the millions of Israeli Jews who just had their judicial rights stripped away from them or money stolen by this dipshit. Remember the corruption scandals? We'll have to wait and see how all of this plays out. But look, I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments. And last but not least, let's talk about Sabrina Carpenter's album cover. Sabrina Carpenter, one of the biggest pop stars in the world for her sex-positive pop hits, has a new album cover out. Oh shit! Oh shit. Well, naturally, I as a man feel the need to comment on this. So look, this is Sabrina Carpenter's new album cover, right? You either think it's cheeky and fun, or you fucking hate it and think it set women back 50 years, right? What do I think? I'm so glad you asked. If only more people asked what men think on this specifically female issue. You know, we're really the ones who need to be heard in this situation. But first, here's the conflict. Obviously, this is somewhat satirical, right? But also, obviously, this seems demeaning to women with this image of Sabrina on her knees, like, you know. And many people who are upset say this is using misogyny and masquerading it as sex positive to sell records, which ultimately ends up demeaning and objectifying women, because the dynamics of this objectification, even though it's satirical, will be lost on people who are idiots and take it at face value. And we'll go back to people making jokes about women on their knees all of the time. However, many other people have a counter argument to that and say, because of Sabrina's image and brand and her song style, her art isn't lost on others, and the context is very relevant, and she actively makes sure that is known. But also, it is a choice. Part of feminism is being able to make whatever choice you want without the input from men or the approval of men or a gendered standard involved. But of course, you don't want to hear about that. Everyone is thinking, what does this brown man think of all of this? Yes, I know. Also, I just need to say, like, this bit started out as being like, isn't it weird that I'm talking about this and men seem to center themselves in this conversation when they talk about this? But I realized that this joke is now centering itself in the conversation, and now I am Ouroboros eating his own fucking tail. Here's my opinion. My opinion on what Sabrina Carpenter should or should not do does not matter, right? I will give you my opinion on the effects of society as a whole, but not on what Sabrina Carpenter gets to do. She gets to do whatever the fuck she wants, but I'm not giving her permission. I can't give her, this is fucking hard. But if we're talking about optics, which I do have experience in because I talk about optics all the time and I have fucking experience in PR and all that bullshit. My opinion as a musician who has worked in PR and seen this shit all the fucking time is that this specific album cover, the effect of it long-term, is somewhat negligible. This is not going to set women back 50 years. It is not going to shift the tide towards misogynists and change long-term trends towards objectifying women. It's probably going to have two effects. Number one, if you're a Sabrina Carpenter fan and you're with the joke, you're going to understand the context, you're going to have a good time, you're going to feel empowered with your choices and play some bops and defend her. If you like the album and the way she portrays things, you're going to feel more assertive, like other pop icons who have released similar records have made their audiences feel in this specific situation. Madonna, Britney, Maya, Christina Aguilera, the list goes on. Number two, if you're a Sabrina Carpenter fan and you're not down with the joke, this is going to upset you, and you have the right to be upset. It is valid to feel frustrated. Not that you need my ass telling you that, but you have a right to feel frustrated when it comes to media that you feel may intentionally or unintentionally put you in a box regardless of whether it's satire or not. Intent is not the same as effect, and you can understand if the intent is good, but the execution isn't. valid. Number 3, if you're an asshole and you feel like women should be on their knees and get all your tips from Andrew Tate videos because you have the social skills of a fucking paperweight, you will say some dumb shit for a week on Twitter and then go back to being miserable and forget about this because your life is miserable and you are a goldfish who forgets everything 24 hours after it happens but complains like you've always been complaining because you refuse to solve your own problems. You're a bitch. And if it's popular, if the album blows up, you'll bring it up once in a while. But let's be honest, you would have done that anyway, right? If Sabrina Carpenter wore a nun outfit, you'd still make jokes about her on her knees, and they'd be just as irrelevant then as your impact on the world is now. The thing about music is the context it gets in culture, right? Sabrina Carpenter has built her brand on being sex positive. Really cheeky about it, right? Really open with it, but ultimately supporting women, toying with the boxes men always want to try to put them in. That's a skill a lot of well-known artists toy with in other mediums as well. But what matters most is how she handles and directs the attention and what she leans into. You can see it in the careers of other artists as well when they face similar backlash. Again, Christina Aguilera caught a rash of shit for Dirty for a long time, but she is ultimately now known as the diva voice. She leaned into her voice and positivity around herself with singles like Beautiful, which was off the same album. So look, my opinion on whether this is what it is, right, doesn't really fucking matter. But if it comes to how this will affect society, I don't think this is the DEFCON 1 setback reaction that will bring misogynists out of the woodwork that some people think it is. But I also kind of understand why you would be worried about that. And the fact that people do worry about that at all means there is a problem with it. And the fact that we're talking about this means the conversation about this is the forefront of the album and not the face value. Oh, she's on her fucking knees. The conversation is about what this means for women in terms of sex positivity, in terms of the way men objectify them, which we should be having this conversation. We should be talking about it, not me, because can I talk about it? Am I allowed to talk about it?
You're on your own, buddy.
So look, let me know what you think in the comments. I think it's an interesting discussion to be had. Unless you're one of those people who are like, serves this man hater right, you're a fucking loser. Chill the fuck out. All right? Thanks. And that's our show. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Go check out Go for Lethal. Go check out Zed Talks. I may be out of town next week, but I'm going to see if I can do an episode from the road. But anyway, my name is Tabani. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon. Let's go.